Welcome to the Connectable podcast.
The Connectable podcast starts in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, so we just started, man. Welcome to Connectable, everybody.
Let's go.
And today's guest is a motivational speaker, husband, father, businessman, author. I mean, you name it, this guy does it. Our friend, Kevin Bracy. What's going on, man?
Man, you know what it is. It's great to be in the presence of greatness.
And we were talking.
We missed you.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Always miss you. In fact, we were trying to push it off for this is a new podcast. This is your first time being on this podcast, but we've done, I think, 3 or 4, maybe 5 podcasts with you on the other Character Combine podcast.
Right.
And we're like, okay, we could always invite Kevin, but we also feel like it's cheating. It's like, okay, we need to get some, get some episodes under our belt before we pull out the cheat code. Kevin, great. So now we're like, hey, 12 episodes in, it's time to get Kevin on here.
We were trying to make ourselves look good by
Right.
having you on. That's
Oh,
right.
come on now.
Yeah.
Let's go.
ulterior motivation.
Absolutely. So we always start this podcast off by letting people know how we're connected. And so, Kevin, man, I've known you for, I think, it's almost been 10 years now, I think, or maybe 11 years. But that's when I first started getting to know you. And I remember that I met you at a CalFit in Elk Grove because we were doing the Be Change Expo and you had just spoken there. And I remember thinking, I don't really want to be a speaker like he's doing, but I feel like I need to be connected to this guy. And so I told my girlfriend, my wife now, my girlfriend then, like, I'm just going to go introduce myself. I don't know why. I'm just going to go talk to him. We exchanged numbers, and then I kind of called you a few times and we got connected, and we've just been, I think, connected ever since that point. But the funny thing is I actually saw you speak to my high school team when I was a freshman at Castro High School.
Crazy.
I know. And so the fact that everything kind of came back together, and now that we're, doing some projects together, it's pretty cool. So that's how we're connected, man. And obviously you're connected to me in depth through the Character Combine podcast as well. So, that's the connection. And I'm definitely grateful for that connection for sure.
Hey, me and you both, man. Josh, I tell you this all the time, man. One of the greatest human beings walking the face of this earth, one of the greatest human beings I've ever met. And then when I met Deb and we got a chance to all be in the same room, it was like, what's up, man? What's happening?
Yeah.
Well, I feed off of your energy for sure. I don't know about you, Josh, but I'm always like,
Oh yeah.
oh, Bracy's coming on. Let's go. All right, let's go.
He's the best that I know for sure, man. So,
Wow.
So since this audience, may or may not know you, just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, how you got into motivational speaking. Like, we just want to hear a little bit about your story.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Sacramento, and for as long as I can remember, I don't spend too much time. A bat is always nearby me. You know what I'm saying? Because my dream growing up was to play this game of baseball. I was never a great player. I wasn't the fastest. I wasn't I didn't hit, home runs. I was just an average player, but I worked my tail off. And for as long as I can remember, I've been had a dream to play professional baseball, and grew up in Citrus Heights. And after graduating from high school, I didn't get any scholarship offers or anything. I was hoping to get drafted out of high school. That's kind of the big dream of any baseball player. When you see, some of your friends and guys you played against getting drafted and getting scholarships and stuff like that. I did get a scholarship offer after high school to the University of Pacific, but I didn't score high enough on my SATs. So I ended up taking a detour to American River College, went to ARC for 3 years. I went to ARC to play baseball. I didn't go to ARC to go to college. That was just part of it. So baseball was first for me. It defined who I was at that time. I didn't know I could be anything else except for a baseball player. And after 3 years at ARC, I graduated with my associate arts degree. And from there, I got one offer from one school, and that was the University of Utah. And it just happened to be a Division I school. So it was, for me, in my heart, it confirmed, all that hard work, that at least one D1 school saw the talent that I had. So I went to University of Utah, played ball there for 2 years, graduated with a sociology degree, criminal justice certificate. And from there, I was still waiting. I still had the feeling I wanted to play ball, and I never got drafted. But a few months after graduating, my coach from American River College, because I worked, it's a testament to hard work, because there were a lot of players that were better than me, But a couple of years after, a couple months after graduating from the University of Utah, I still wanted to play. So I called my coach at American River College, and he made a couple of phone calls and got me an opportunity to play in Canada. So I got to continue my career to play balling. And he trusted, after I graduated, he trusted that wherever he put his name on me, that I was going to go there, and at least I may not be the best guy, but I'm going to work my tail off. And he knew he wouldn't be embarrassed putting his name on, my name. So I went to Canada and played 2 years of professional baseball. And through, playing ball and traveling and from city to city, what it taught me that I did not know was it is actually possible to do what you love and get paid to do it. See, I thought that was an oxymoron. I thought that was oxymoronic. I thought that because no one in my family did what they loved and got paid to do it. My family, when football was over on Sundays, Sunday night football was over, everybody was trying to figure out if they had a cold or they were sick, because Monday they had to go to work. Yeah. So they wanted to call in on Monday. Yeah. That was like normalcy around my house, because they didn't love what they did. So I didn't know that was possible. Yeah. So after playing ball, I realized that I did what I loved and got paid to do it. So I decided while I was playing that I was not going to settle. I wasn't just going to settle for some job that, I'm just going to go get a job. I got my degrees. No, if I didn't have a passion for it, if it didn't fuel me and drive me, I wasn't going to waste my time. So thank goodness I had my antennae up thinking about what's my passion. And somebody years ago loaned me a cassette tape. Now, y'all might be too young to remember cassette tapes, but we used to have cassette. Okay, I want to make sure.
No, not us. No. Maybe our audience, but not us.
Right. So someone loaned me a cassette tape of a motivational speaker, and I heard Les Brown for the very first time, the first motivational speaker. That was his title that I ever heard. And I put that tape in my tape deck. And that tape got stuck in my tape deck. And that tape played over and over. Every time I turned my car on, the tape would play. I couldn't turn it off. I couldn't eject it. It was broken. I didn't have the money to get it fixed. Some people say, well, you were a professional baseball player. You couldn't get it fixed. I was in independent professional ball. We didn't make any money. We got paid to play, but it's not like we had extra money to get a tape deck fixed. I could use this money doing something else. Right. So this tape played over and over and over again. And I remember after listening to his voice over and over and over, I said, wait a minute. I am so inspired by this man's story after hearing it for the 1,000th time. And I said, wait a minute, I have a story. Wait a minute. What if I can tell my story and move people and motivate people and inspire people and make people feel the way this tape is making me feel? And that was the moment when I got a new dream, because what I didn't tell you in my childhood, I grew up in a tough childhood where it was violence. I grew up around violence. In reality, I'm not supposed to be on this podcast. I'm not supposed to be doing positive things, motivate. I'm not supposed to be doing that. I'm supposed to be dead. I'm supposed to be in jail. I'm supposed to be selling drugs, doing drugs, whatever the case may be. So I was able to survive that and beat the system, if you will. And I said, I want to be a speaker, man. And then I started slowly but surely. I started off at my high school. I started off with my math teacher, who my 12th grade math teacher, his name is Mr. Peoples. He's still teaching at Mesa Verde. Called him up one day and I said, hey, Mr. Peoples, I'm a motivational. I was lying, but I wanted to be one. I said, I'm a motivational speaker. I want to come and talk to your senior class. He goes, come on in. And that was the very first time I stepped foot in front of an audience, planted 2 feet, with a senior class in front of me, and delivered my first speech. And I had my little tape recorder and I pushed play record, and I recorded my very first talk. And that was 24 years ago.
Wow. It's almost like you spoke it into existence. You're like, that's what I do. That's who I am. And then then you became that. What was that? I don't want to jump too far ahead. I don't know what question you had next, Josh, but like the question right off the top of my head, and I've talked to you before, and we know your story, but tell our audience that's listening to this new podcast, like, what was that like walking through that journey of just becoming a motivational speaker? Like, did you find yourself, struggling to find content? Like, maybe you weren't motivated sometimes, like the ups and downs of it. What was that like?
That's a really good question. We live in a world, and I think the world has been like this for many years, where we want success overnight.
Mm-hmm.
We want to go viral tomorrow.
Yeah.
Many times we don't want to do the road work. I like breaking down the journey of a dream to, 3 phases. The dream, this is what I want to do. This is the goal. The struggle, and this is where most people quit. This is the part that people want to skip. This is the part where it gets hard. This is the part where the muscles grow. This is the part where the relationship grows during the struggle. And if you fight through that part, on the other side of that is the victory. Now, I'm not saying that everybody's going to reach their dreams, but there is something victorious on the other side of being willing to fight through the struggle. So I, launched this dream, and I said to myself, I'm going to put in the same time, energy, focus, effort that I put into baseball. I'm going to put it into speaking. Never owned a business before and didn't know how to do it. But what I did was I put myself around words that kept me inspired. I would spend 6-7 hours at a Barnes and Noble bookstore. Remember Barnes and Noble? Remember Borders bookstore? Those are my favorite place. Those are my second homes during this time. I would go on a Saturday. My wife would pack me a lunch and a dinner sometimes. I'd find a place that I can sit down and I could walk in, and I remember smelling the books. I just got excited to just be in that space. I would go pick up 3 or 4 motivational books, 2 or 3 books on psychology, a couple of magazines, entrepreneur magazines. I'd have my notepad, and I would just read and just ingest words that kept me inspired and kept me going, and sometimes frustrated me, because I wanted to be where I wanted to be quicker. But what I was doing was I was preparing myself. I was creating content. I was creating something. Sometimes I would read something and it would spark a memory of something in my past, and I'd write it down and keep that, because I know at some point, nobody was booking me at this time, but at some point I'm gonna be able to use that. And I started journaling on a regular basis. I'd watch movies, and my mind was thinking, oh, that's a good idea. I could use that as a metaphor. I'd watch TV shows. My wife would be like, can we just watch a movie? You have to have a pen and a piece of paper. I'd take a pen and a piece of paper to a movie theater. She was like, can we just watch the damn movie, please?
Yeah.
So because I was hungry, right? I was hungry. I was afraid, like right behind me, my book is Scared Great. I was afraid to fail. I was scared. So I overworked. I took 200 ground balls a day instead of 100, 200 swings a day instead of 100. So, and during that time, I was trying to figure out who is going to be willing to book me. Nobody knows me. And long story short, it took me 16 years.
Wow.
Look, 16 years to become a household name locally. I mean, I hustled. And what took it over the top was I got frustrated. And I was in maybe my, 8th year, where I was like, I call it trickle, flow, flood. Trickle is when you get booked here or there every now and then. You might get a check. The check may be $25 to come and speak, or a Starbucks card to come and speak. Trickle, 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 trickle. And then you get to a point to where your name and reputation starts to grow, and you get some sort of a flow. And that's when Josh and I were working. Josh, when we were working together, and you were helping me book certain gigs, and there was kind of a flow there. Sure. But I was still struggling, right? Yeah. We still weren't making any money, right? So I decided in 2007, what I needed to do is I needed to make a big splash, a big boom. So I said, I'm going to start creating my own shows. This is when I went from a motivational speaker to now my title is motivational entertainer. I'm going to entertain you while I motivate you. So I was watching a show on television. Some may know about it. It's called Def Comedy Jam, Russell Simmons Def Comedy Jam. And what it is it's a comedy showcase where comedians showcase their talent. There's a host, There's a DJ Kid Capri on the ones and twos.
Yeah.
And there's 4 or 5 comedians that the host comes up and says some jokes and then introduces the first comedian. He takes the mic and does his thing. And then the host comes back, introduces the second comedian. She comes and rips the mic. And so it's like that. I said, wait a minute. What if I create a show called Monstars of Motivation where I host it, but it's Kevin Bracy's Monstars of Motivation? Why? Because I wanted my name associated with motivation locally. So what better way to do it than create a show? So we rented out the Benvenuti Theater, seats 365 people. And I remember paying like $1,500. I didn't have no money, $1,500 to put on this. And my wife's like, whatever it takes. I mean, we may not be able to eat next month, but let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
So we put the down payment down there, and I gave myself 90 days to move 365 tickets. I did not know what I was doing. I was doing it on faith alone. I don't know how to put on events. So I had to create what I wanted to have on the stage. I had to, through text messages, phone calls, newspaper articles, getting on the morning news shows, just hustle, text messages to try to move tickets. And the day of the show, long story short, the day of the show, here's when I know it worked. I was backstage, first show. I've been hustling for 90 days. Well, it's show night, so I can't worry about selling tickets anymore. It's time. Whatever was sold is sold. We weren't sold out yet, though. We were close, but we weren't there. I'm backstage. Showtime is 6:30. I'm getting there. I'm putting my hat on. I'm getting ready to make my big entrance. We're about 5 minutes away from start time. I'm saying my prayers. My buddy Danny Chavez walks in the back. He goes, Brace. I was like, we ready to go? He's stage manager. He's like, nah, bro. I go, what do you mean? Now I'm stressed. It's showtime. I hear the music playing, the dancers. He goes, we can't start on time. I go, why? He said, because Brace, right now, the parking lot is gridlocked with people. He said, the walk-up tickets, there's a line around the building.
No
and
way.
I went, what?
What?
Oh my God. I took a deep breath and I thanked God, because that was confirmation for me that I was doing the right thing. First show sold out, off the chain. And next thing you know, we started having a show or 2 per year. And then when I started having shows, people started to link motivation with Kevin Bracy, motivation with Kevin Bracy. Then went from a trickle to a flow. 16 years later from the start, I started in 98. 16 years later, I'm sitting in a school district, Washington Unified School District in West Sac. I'd been hustling, speaking here, speaking there, speaking in the classroom here, doing an assembly here, doing an anti-bullying assembly here, doing the little piece, but nothing had hit. I sit down with the guy and he goes, Kevin, and I just created a program, right? I went from an assembly speaker, remember that, Josh, anti-bullying assembly, to I created a program, meaning I'm going to come to your campus multiple times a year to lay down these principles of acceptance and empathy and all those things. And he goes, Kevin, we already have a bully prevention program in our district. It's brand new. It's called Oveus. We already have it in our district. He said, but it's difficult and the teachers aren't understanding it. We need something simple. So we're going to take Oveus out of our district, and we want to bring the Reach One Alliance into every school in this district. You know what that means? That means on that day, Susan and I, my assistant, we booked 100 dates in the calendar in one day. 10 principals showed up every half hour to book me visiting their campus 8 to 10 times. So we had 10 visits that was the beginning. My life hasn't been the same again since that day, but it took me 16 years.
Oh my gosh.
That's
wow.
wild.
That is wild.
Well, it's crazy. You know, I love what you said. There's a lot of stuff that you said that I love, but
Yeah.
you know, one of the things that I think is cool is that you could have sat there as you were coming up through the ranks of motivational speaking and just sat there and waited. And it's like, eventually someone will give me that call or send me that email or book me for something. And you could have just waited for it to happen. Right. But nothing's going to get done that way. So you went out and created something to make it happen for yourself.
Right.
Now we can talk about this a little bit later, but you have your whole school of motivation, or all of these speakers, first step for speakers, where you're trying to train up and coach aspiring speakers. But how important is understanding that if for all of your speakers is to, hey, it's not going to come to you, especially nowadays, you have to go get it. And if it's not there to go get, you have to create something so that people come to you. Like, how difficult is that for aspiring speakers to like really grasp onto? Because like, let's be honest, man, like you're super talented and people could, and I'm sure people say this, like, man, I wish I had the same energy that Kevin does, or I wish I had the same ability to speak like Kevin does. But if people looked at your week, it's nothing but hard work and speaking engagement after speaking engagement, because you put the work in. It's, yeah, some of it's talent because you're a talented dude, but a lot of it is just because you have an incredible work ethic. So like, how difficult is it to take all that stuff that made you so great and like give it to someone else and say, this is kind of what it takes. So if you're willing to do it, then you can make it too. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's because I had a coaching session today with my A team, but it's very difficult because, like I said, we live in this world where we want it overnight.
Right.
And there's so many people today that, you know, you go to YouTube, I mean, you go to Instagram or you go to Facebook or whatever, and they all have, you know, not all, but many have motivational speaker on their little thing. And it's like, and I get it. It's kind of like I DJ middle school dances. I don't DJ high school dances because they turn up too much. I DJ middle school dances, right? So I can control the middle schoolers, but the high schoolers, nah, they turn up way too much.
Yeah. Kevin, that's exactly why I don't chaperone the dances at the school I work at. Mm.
No, I'm DJing, having fun, and somebody's in the bathroom, you know. So I don't want that on my name. You know what I'm saying? So, but I don't, because I would be disrespecting the name of a DJ. Now, I play music. I'm a motivational entertainer. I'm an MC. I know how to rock the mic. I know how to get you out of your seat. I know that, hey, I know how to do all that, but I don't call myself a DJ because that disrespects the name. So there's a little bit, now I'm over it. I'm grown when you see motivational speaker, because there's a misconception today that just because you post videos that you're a motivational speaker. Now, technically, yes, you are. But the thing that's missing is professional, because when you're getting paid to create videos, getting paid to show up to Zooms, that's professional speaking. So it is hard to translate what I know to be true and what needs to be done over a period of time to teach it to someone else, because everybody wants it so fast. And they see this speaking as, man, that's fun, man. You're in front of the room. I mean, you're controlling the crowd. That looks easy. I can do that. But they don't understand when you get up in front of the room, if they're kindergarten through third graders, you can't just get up there and just talk. You got to sing, you got to have fun, you got to bring them in. And then you got a high school group where you have 1,500 students in the gymnasium. Oh, I can do that. Really? You got to be big. You got to walk around. You got to be able to be over here, but see what's going on over there and make sure the one way over there is connected to what you're saying, and speak loud enough to be able to, for them to hear you, but then also slow down so that they can lean in and be, so that it, and it's hard. It's not, and it's fun, but it's a craft. It's an art. It's something that you got to have a passion for it, and you got to love it, and you got to love people. And it's hard to translate that because people want it overnight. And when it's not happening, they're not willing to go to the bookstore and spend 6 to 8 hours when nobody's booking you to just sit and read and study. And sometimes just sit and don't do anything and just think. Sometimes go for a walk and speak it out of your mouth, what you want to become in your life. And that seems like, oh, that's empty. Nah, everything that I've spoken out that I wanted is now a reality. There's power in speaking it out. So they're not willing to do the work within themselves. They want the notoriety, they want the microphone, but the work is within yourself, so that you're able to create concepts and ideas that you've thought through of how you're going to deliver it to connect with that audience and deliver what they need to hear, not necessarily what you want to say.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy, because I feel like it's something, I don't know if you agree with this, Deb, but I feel like something that's come up on this podcast quite a bit is people who are either entrepreneurs or passionate about what they do. They've all said that, hey, if you're passionate about what you do, you have to be obsessed with it. Just like you said, you have to be obsessed with how you control the crowd. You have to be obsessed with how you project your voice. Like you said, going big sometimes and then going small sometimes. It's not just a matter of saying, hey, I'm a talker. I love speaking. Maybe I can go out and talk to, 500 students in high school. Like, if you're just seeing dollar signs and you're not seeing there's this passion and purpose behind it, you'll never succeed because it's too difficult of a craft to just wing. You know what I mean?
It's so true. And some people think, and some people think, I'll speak on the side. There's no such thing.
Yeah.
Speak on the side. You either have to be all in or not, because it takes an all in mentality in order to get, building your name and reputation. I teach dream global, but focus local.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be, I want to be in New York, and what do you mean? Book one at home first. And people don't want to do that because they're dreaming so big, which is great.
Right.
I don't think, to me, one of my favorite quotes is, it's not about how big you can dream. It's about how long you can dream big. Because if you don't have the longevity in mind, after 2 weeks or 2 months of nothing, no opportunities, you give up. You're not motivated anymore.
Right.
So how long you can dream.
Well, it's almost like you have, because I'm a huge fan of stand-up comedy, and you have these people that, maybe celebrities, and they think they're funny, and you hear stories all the time, and they hop up on that stage, and 5 minutes in, your celebrity, the hype of your celebrity is gone, and now they're like, when's this dude going to make us laugh? Oh, he can't, because he's not funny. Right. And so it's kind of the same thing with, with you. It's like, let's be honest, Kevin, you've been around the game for a long time. How many times do you see, whether it be an actor, actress, athlete, someone out there that has some fame, and then they get booked to do a corporate gig, and it's brutal. It's like, you see, it's like, oh, Kevin Bracy could do that way better, and he doesn't have the same level of notoriety that person,
right?
Doesn't have like a world championship ring, but he could just crush it because you're more passionate about it. And like you said, they're doing it on the side because their notoriety kind of took them in that direction, and people are like, hey, you have a cool story, we'd love to hear it, but you can't even deliver the story that well. It's crazy.
Absolutely. Go, Deb, you got something?
Well, I was going to say just something you said earlier, and I can't remember now what it was, but something reminded me of just, a lot of people, and tell me if you agree, a lot of people don't want to put in the work, I think, with just, their dream, because they are constantly comparing their beginning with someone else's or someone else's middle work. It's like, no, like, you have to put in that work too, just because you're here and you just started and they're here. You don't know the work that they put in to get there, and you have to do that too. So someone wanting to be a motivational speaker might look at you and want to, like, next week, starting, if like they start today, and if by next week I'm gonna be Kevin Bracy, and then I realize that I'm not, and then I just give up. It's like, well, no, like you just said, you put in 16 years
right
of work. So a lot of people, I think, don't realize that, and then they don't want to put in all that work.
It's so true. It's like, you got to have the patience, right? Yeah. It's patience and it's consistent action. See, for me, like, I started building this business and chasing my dream before the internet was even what it is. I started in 98. And that's when, like, I was getting text messages from friends like, hey, you need to get on this. Like, there's a, Facebook and this, and, they started reaching out for certain things. And I didn't know it was going to be what it is today. Right.
Sure.
But I was focused on building my business offline. I was focused on shaking hands, showing up, delivering speeches, this. And then when the internet started to grow, 2000, 2001, 2002, it started to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I was late to the game because it was working. What I was doing, I saw, okay, if I just keep doing it, don't lose focus right now, stay focused. Now, if I would have jumped online right then, maybe at that time, I could have become an internet sensation, but I didn't. I stayed focused offline, but I was hanging out with Les Brown. What What do I need? I don't need the internet. I'm with the greatest in the world who's teaching me the game. And I just stayed focused and stayed there. And then when I did get online and I look around and I see these speakers with millions and millions, I'm like, am I late to the party? But by that time, I started to see my business growing and I started to make money and due to word of mouth. My business was growing. So I didn't care about what everybody else was doing, but I did notice, how did they get so far ahead of me on this internet thing? But it was because I was late to the game. And even today, I've never gone viral. But guess what? I'll never, ever have to go to a job again for the rest of my life because I did something right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I built the relationships. I built it offline, and I'm cool with not being whatever, being able to make a difference, a deep difference at home where I live. I don't want to travel. I'm done with all that. I just want to make a difference at home.
That's great. Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Deb. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it's just a testament to what you just said. You went to, that school district and you got 100 bookings in one day. Like that right there just kind of says it all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All the hard work you did.
And you said something about comparison.
Mm-hmm.
One of my quotes is, the quickest way to a state of discouragement is comparison.
Mm. That's
for
good
any
one.
of us.
Yeah.
If we want, the quickest way to go from happy to discouraged is looking at somebody else, not knowing their story, and comparing where you are or where you want to be to where they currently are.
Yep. Exactly.
And it's hard not to do that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
well, I imagine. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, just like you said, all the work there is not there. You just look and see what they're doing, and you're like, oh, I want to do that. And you don't realize the work that it takes. Yeah.
Behind the scenes.
Well, I imagine that's something that could potentially come up even within which I want you to explain a little bit about your first step for speakers, but even if they're not looking at you and comparing themselves to you, I know that one of your speakers that you've known for a little while, Janice, right? She just had this really awesome opportunity and made a good amount of money to speak. Yeah. There might be other people that came in the program at the same time of her. They might even be looking side to side like, dang, I'm not progressing the same way that this speaker is going, but we kind of started at the same time. So I imagine if you're not careful, that could become really discouraging. And then it's like that Michael Phelps, when Michael Phelps was going after all of those records, right? There's that still shot that they captured where one of I think I forgot it was maybe a Brazilian swimmer was talking a lot of trash before the meet. And then they captured this still shot where the Brazilian swimmer is actually looking over at Michael Phelps, and Michael Phelps is looking straight on. And it's this idea of, hey, you're not going to get anywhere if you keep looking to the side. You've got to focus on your own thing. So, but anyways, so tell us a little bit about your first step for speakers and who is it for, what's it about, and all that.
Yeah. Well, First Step for Speakers is something that was created back in 2000, I want to say 2009. So what I would do was I had a event in Los Angeles at the Westin, and there were about maybe 50, 60 speakers that showed up, and it was a 3-day event. And all it was 3 days of teaching first steps. I remember when I was building my business, I never wanted to forget what it was like to be new. So I documented my journey. So every step that I took, I just documented it because I knew I was going to make it, because I just wasn't going to quit. You know you're going to make, if you say I'm just not quitting, I don't care what's going to happen. I don't care what happens. I'm not quitting. And when you get to that place, you're going to make it. It just doesn't matter. Whatever it is, I'm just not going to quit. So I created I have a affinity for the newest person, the new one that wants to get in, the new one that wants to do it. So I put together a training called First Steps for Speakers. They showed up, I taught, and did my thing. Well, that training, I did in one in San Francisco. And then I stopped doing them for some reason. I think I stopped doing them because my schedule started to get booked more. And I could to try to put together events and stuff when you're speaking a couple hundred times a year is very difficult to do. So when, right before COVID hit, I started thinking I need to create a product. I need to have an online product. We live in an online world, dude. This is me talking to myself. We live in an online world, dude, and you don't have no online products? Man, you late to the game. So I spend some time going into a studio and recording with Russ B. Yeah, with Russ B and Dave Martinelli. And I created maybe 30 or 40 videos breaking it down step by step. The art, the ABCs, the art, the business, and the commitment of professional speaking. And I put it into a electronic program. So now it's a First Step for Speakers program, online course that people purchase. And, but I have a First Step for Speakers group online with 1,600 speakers in there where I teach in there, but I also market the online course in there. So it's basically just breaking down the first steps. If somebody is a experienced speaker, that's not the group for you. It's for the people who are brand spanking new and want to learn, how do I lay a foundation that is going to be here over time? Like now I've built something and I'm so grateful for it, that the only way something happens to my business is if I do something stupid, right? To mess it up. Sure. If I just keep my standard at greatness and keep doing what I'm doing for the rest of my life, and it's so fulfilling, I will get booked. And I want to teach other people how to build their businesses the right way. If they want to go all over the world, that's fine. But I want them to build a foundation at home first. Dream global, focus local. First Steps for Speakers. ABCs, the art, the business, and the commitment of professional speaking is what I teach in that group and in that course.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's really good stuff, man. I'll hop onto the lives that you do every once in a while because I'm part of that group.
Yeah,
and,
I see you in there.
yeah. And it's cool too, because we see a lot of people see Kevin Bracy, the motivator, right? And you're on stage, the entertainer and all that stuff. But when you're in those sessions, like you become Coach Bracy instead, where, you know what I'm saying? Like you're letting people, not letting people have it, but you're letting people know it's like, hey, that's not going to work, or hey, that's amazing. Keep going with that. Like it's fun seeing that. You know what I'm saying, Deb? It's fun seeing that side of Kevin, because I'm used to seeing Kevin on the stage, or like when we're having conversations about whatever project you might be working on. But and every time, once in a while, I'll see someone comment something. It's like, Kevin's going to get him for that.
I'm gonna let him have it, but it from a place of love. But,
absolutely. So no, I would say, man, if anybody wants to be a speaker and is brand new to it, I would definitely encourage you guys to check that out, because it's really, really good. And you get to see, you're on that journey with other people that are doing the same thing and that are aspiring to be that same thing. So you can kind of, bounce. I mean, I know like we follow like your guy Levi and Janice and a couple others on Instagram and social media and all that. And they're all bouncing ideas off of each other, because, we know that like having that group.
That's my A team right there.
Exactly.
A team.
Yeah. And they're incredible. It's amazing. Well, I think, it's kind of changing directions a little bit, but kind of staying within this idea of surrounding yourself with amazing people. This episode is being recorded right after Valentine's Day. Your wife's awesome, man. Like I love your wife, Jessica. Like how important was it for you to like have a partner in life that was going to run or be willing to run as hard as you do for your dream? Because I feel like we hear stories of other people and that's not the case. And it's a huge issue. And so every time I see you guys, like, oh, that's a couple that's on the same track, and you guys are both running just as hard towards the dream. So like, how important is that for people who are pursuing their passion to find maybe not necessarily a spouse, but like people to be with you on that journey, and they have to be willing to go, as hard as you do? Like, how important is that?
Wow. I mean, let me first say, because I say it so fast, sometimes people miss it. It's First Steps with an S. First Steps for FOR Speakers with an S. First Steps for Speakers. Because I say it so fast, sometimes people don't get it. But I mean, for me, I don't know any other way. Now, I do coach people who have that challenge, like my wife or my husband doesn't want me to do this or whatever. But for me, it's been everything to have somebody believe in me. But when Jess and I got married, she knew already that I was a go-getter. So it would be very hard for us to get married. And she said, well, no, I don't want to do that. And it would be friction because in my heart, I'm just a go-getter. I'm not lazy. If I want something, I'm gonna go get it no matter what the obstacles are. But, I'm blessed to have a wife that said her favorite words on our journey was whatever it takes, babe. Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
When you hear that gives you the freedom. Now remember, 16 years, at a certain point, she might've been like, baby, you need to go get a job. I mean, we got to figure this thing out. But she saw the hustle and the grind and the passion and the tears and the tears and the tears and the frustration. But she also saw me get back up and keep going and keep going.
Yeah.
So it's been a godsend to have a partner like that. And when I sit sometimes and watch her do the invoices, and I just sit back and watch and smile because she's smiling.
It's like, yep.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, she's smiling like that. This was worth it. This was worth it.
Yeah.
So
I love it, man.
16 years. I gotta keep saying that because I don't, people forget. They think you're just overnight. It's not overnight. Nothing's overnight. It takes 10,000 hours.
Yeah. And how many hours do you think you've put into speaking?
10,000 hours.
Yeah.
I know for a fact. Over 16 years, I put in 10,000 hours. Like when I say 10,000 hours, I mean every time you read a book, you got to add those hours. Every time you listen to an audio or watched a VHS, remember those?
Yeah.
Every time you watch a VHS, now, then DVDs and then now downloads. Whenever you watch a video, that's part of the hours. Anytime you're speaking, that's part of the hours. Anytime you're talking about it, that's part of the hours. Anytime you're thinking about it, that's part of the hour. So all of those creates a vibration in your life, a wavelength that you're on. I willed this into existence. So anytime you're taking notes, anytime, when I add all of that up, there's no question. In fact, there's going to be a documentary that comes out that's called 10,000 Hours. And it's going to be because I've put it in, but nobody sees it because I'm not online and all that. But when I put that thing together, it's going to be a masterpiece. I spent 1,000 hours with Les Brown. I spent 1,000 hours speaking for organizations like Monster.com's Making It Count programs. I spent 1,000 hours with Toastmasters. So I have everything laid out, 10 chapters and 1,000 hours per chapter. So yeah, it takes time.
Yeah. Wow. And especially one last thought that I had was, especially with this generation right now, this younger generation. Oh boy. So I'm a high school teacher.
Yeah.
Their attention span, let me tell you, I got to be an entertainer as well for them too, just to keep their focus, especially on Zoom. But man, I'm just I'm just thinking of them in terms of how, hopefully that they realize that it does take that much time and it's not going to happen overnight. And I feel like you're the right person to show them the way. So that's all I have to say about
Thank you. And I speak to them too. And when I'm speaking to them, that's why I add music, I add chants, I add, it's all of that because I got to keep their attention. I've spoken at Sheldon a couple times, the basketball team a couple times. Yeah. In a year that they won it all, I spoke there one year. Yeah. And another year when they didn't win, I was sick over that because I was like 3-0 speaking to teams that were winning, but it's all good.
That's awesome, man. Hey, well, we know you have a crazy busy schedule. We know we only have you for a little bit of time, but one of the ways we like to end the podcast is because it's called Connectable, and our whole goal is to get people, just make everybody a little bit more connected to maybe things that they're not aware of or people they're not aware of. So besides yourself, we'll get to all of the places they can follow you in a second, but is there a brand, an organization, a person that you feel like our audience needs to be connected with?
Yes. There's a young lady by the name of Leah Nelson.
Yeah.
She is in 9th grade. She is, I used to go to her school and do chant rallies year after year after year. It was in that same district that hired me. And I'm still in that district. It's been like 8 years that I'm still in that district. It's crazy. Wow. But she was like in 3rd grade. And I was doing chant rallies and kind of grew up with her. And one night they did it was a Saturday night thing where they wanted to connect the cops with the community. And she came up to me one day and she gave me a bracelet. She was like, Coach Greatness, I want to give you this bracelet. And what I want you to do is when you do something nice for somebody or say something nice to someone else, you take the bracelet off your wrist and you put it on their wrist. And she created a movement called Because I Care, just to add a little bit more caring and kindness in the world. We interviewed her that night. 2 days later, there was a video that she did that went viral. And her Because I Care 11 program is all over the world. It's been in the bags at the Oscars. It's been, Michael Jordan she's a young lady that is a mover and a shaker. I remember her telling me years ago, I'm going to play basketball at Stanford. She's on her way. 4.0 GPA. She's practicing every day. She's got work ethic. She's kind. She's a leader. She's just a beautiful, brilliant young lady. And she's actually one of my heroes, like for real heroes. She inspires me in that way. So she's somebody that I would say, get her on this show for sure. This podcast, 100%.
Love it, man. We'll do that for sure.
On it.
Yeah, absolutely. She sounds amazing. And then I know actually tomorrow you have 2 days. You have a podcast. Yeah, Thursday you have a podcast releasing with her. So make sure you guys check that out. 21 and under podcast.
Hey.
So before we get out of here, man, so where can they follow you? Where can they follow First Step for Speakers?
Yep.
All of that stuff.
Yes, you can go on Facebook. You can just go to Kevin Bracy, Bracy. There's no E there. Kevin Bracy on Facebook. My speakers group is First Steps for Speakers on Facebook. Instagram, it's I am Kevin Bracy. Twitter, it's I am Kevin Bracy, like you see on the screen. And email kevin@kevinbracy.com, Bracy. There's no E. And it's all about bracing up all day long, baby. What's up?
I love it. Man, we definitely appreciate your time. As always, man, we could do this for a long time, but as we know, you have a very busy schedule. So we just appreciate you carving some time out for us, man, as always.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I almost forgot. So you guys can follow us at Connectable Podcast on Instagram, at Connectable Pod on Twitter, at Connectable Podcast on Facebook, and then at Connectable Podcast on YouTube. So make sure you check us out there as well. And then all of your podcast platforms. So Kevin, man, thank you so much. And be safe and stay healthy, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. See you.
Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable Podcast.